So I wrote this book to let people know that you can be your best self. You can work hard and you can do it all on your own with the love and support that you have around you.
The business in the city, come to the Wave Show. No time a Big Willie, come to the Wave Show. You got a message for the people, come to the Wave Show. You could be black, white, red, blue, come to the Wave Show. It's all love, we wanna meet you. Come to the Wave Show, come to the Wave Show, come to the Wave Show.
Hello, my name is Jamal Smith, and I want to welcome you guys back to the Wave Show. For today, I want to shout out our new viewers tuning in. When you get a chance, hit the link in the subscribe button and follow along, because we got some cool videos coming up, like the one we got for you today. We have a very, very special guest with us, you guys, with an extremely powerful story. Her name, Tanasha Smith.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Good.
So what I want to do for our viewers is I want to tap in and just kind of look into, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Well, Canadian born.
Okay.
Parents are Jamaican. But I don't think I'm fully Canadian because I've had the privilege of being in Jamaica all my life. And so growing up here in Toronto, I thought life was hard until I went to Jamaica and saw the difference.
Interesting.
So I was very grateful, even though where I lived was called the ghetto, which would be any low-income project living in metro housing, right? And so going to Jamaica was not only a view of what it looks like to have less than what I had, because it made me appreciate that I had a lot. And so even though I may not have breakfast at times, there were times where I would just think back, I had cousins I went to school with no breakfast and they're living, right? And so my last location of growing up in the projects would be Jamestown.
Jamestown.
Yes.
Okay, shout out Jamestown.
Yes, Jamestown. And I would never, no matter what happens to me in life, I would never think that to hide that, because it's
true.
what molded me to who I am today. And I'm grateful because I've learned a lot of survival skills, right? Knowing how to be on the street and not be afraid. But I had to also struggle with living in the projects amongst other girls who didn't like me, because at that time I didn't know that I was pretty. I didn't think I was even pretty. And then having to go home and face a different struggle, which was having to fight off the abuser, the sexual abuser who lived in my home. And so for 6 years of my life, I suffered in silence. And not only suffering in silence, when the story did come out, I wasn't believed. So it was also a struggle for me to leave from within Jamestown, because I didn't go to school at Marion. I didn't go to school at Weston. I went to Michael Power.
Interesting.
And I went to a Catholic school that was a good 4 buses away.
What?
Yes. And I didn't fit in there, but it just felt better because I didn't have to see the people who lived in the area at school. So while going to school, I loved school because it was my release. It was my escape. I didn't have to, be in the kitchen preparing dinner or making sure my sisters were in bed. I was a good track star. I would say I was the best track star. And I
like
was
the
good.
confidence.
Yes, my nickname was Shadow Cat.
Really?
Yes, that's how quick I was. But Shadow Cat. But that died because I didn't have the privilege to always stay after school and stay for extracurricular.
And that was because of the responsibilities that you had to juggle
I had to be
at home.
home to look after my siblings. And, I did try to take part in things at school, but I couldn't stay.
It was almost short-lived, right?
Always. And so because of that, I shut down.
Interesting.
And cut out friends and just leave from school straight home. And so living in the community, the girls always wanted to beat me up. But this girl wasn't going to take no diss at no time, right? That. And so I would put up a fight too, because the rage that was inside of me wasn't just to deal with them. It's what was going on at home, carrying the fact that I didn't like myself. I didn't think I fit in, but I wasn't going to let no one punk me. So
And the truth is, how often does that happen, right?
all the
How
time.
often do we let the things, that build up at home
Yes.
shut us out
Yeah.
instead of actually being a lot more open?
Yes.
So,
And even at school, and being black,
yeah,
we don't share. We keep it all in,
yeah.
right?
That's another
So,
thing too, yep.
yes. So that was growing up. It was bittersweet because the sweet part was when I had the privilege to take the bus to my grandparents. So from I was in grade 2, I'd just hop on the bus and take the bus to my grandparents. And that was the sweet part of life because they
Yeah.
loved me and they spoiled me and I had them to myself and I didn't.
So do you feel like you were getting something from them that you weren't getting from
Yes,
home?
most definitely.
And if you could elaborate on that, what would you say that was?
It was love. It was love. I was heard. I was seen.
Nice.
I felt like a child.
And how much confidence did that give you to actually go out in the world? And
Oh.
as much as everything wasn't the best.
It was different because being outside in the neighborhood where my grandparents live, I felt confident to make friends. I felt confident because I had people who were protecting me, loving me, and I can show them off too. Like how everybody else can show off that they got mom and dad.
Yeah.
I got grandma and grandpa.
They're always the
Yeah.
saviors, right?
Yes.
The last minute saviors are grandma
Yeah.
and grandpa.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and that's good because you do need that relationship
Yeah.
with your grandparents, right? They say it takes a village,
It does.
right?
It
And
does.
maybe not all pieces are working in the village, but
Exactly.
you got to make do with what you have in the village.
Right.
Right. So, and I know, and I want you to elaborate more on the story of how they affected you and just going on from where it led you from going to their house. Where did that lead on to next?
Well, my grandfather, who's no longer here with us, he always spoke life into me. And at the time, I was just like, chill. Like, why are you always so deep, right?
Life is
But-
not that serious.
Yeah, it's not that serious. But he would always say to me, listen, little girl, you make sure that you take care of yourself. You
Amen.
are a leader. And you are also a role model for your siblings. So you have to be careful what you do because they will follow you. And that I took that very seriously because the eldest child of 9 children, all girls, right? And that's a lot of pressure.
Right. 100%.
It's a lot of pressure.
True.
So having to be the eldest and having to also play mom sometimes, I didn't have the privilege to be a teenager. I didn't get to hang out. Even today, I don't know how to hang out. What is
Yeah.
that?
How do you spell that?
That doesn't apply to my life. I don't know that. So
Yeah.
I grew up really quick, but the stability of my grandparents in my life let me dream. It allowed me to believe that there was better than what I was experiencing.
Right.
It gave me hope. When they look at me, I knew that I was not only heard, but loved. And so because I'm the first grandchild, everybody know who I was. So when they went to house parties and
I hear
it was
that.
like, oh, there she is kind of thing. And I felt special. But I think the strength, the resiliency that I have stems from the love that I gained from my grandparents.
So now here's where I want to transition. Because you talk about having the resilience through the power of love, almost being like a battery. I know and I understand that you're a wife and also a mother.
Yes.
So what was it like, taking those principles and values that your grandfather taught you and bringing it into your own family unit?
It wasn't easy because living with my mother and father, the father that I would say helped bring me into this world.
Yeah.
And their language was always drop F-bombs 24/7.
Yeah.
So because of the toxic household,
Yes, that's a good word.
I took away swearing, rage, outbursts of violence. That's what I walked away from my home. My grandparents taught me you must respect others,
Interesting.
respect yourself,
Yep.
take care of yourself, be independent. And so with my children, when I was a little girl, my uncle told me that if you want to see a change in your life, pray. So the
almost a
first
cheat code.
prayer was, I don't want to be like my mother and father. I don't know where it came from, but now as an adult, I knew that I didn't want to be this. I didn't want to repeat the cycle, the generational cycle.
Yep. It's a real thing. It's
Yes.
a very, very real
And
thing.
I just didn't want to. I just knew there was more to life. What their life of what they showed it to be. I knew there was more. There had to be more. And so with my kids, I give them a voice. I want them to have a voice at the table. I want them to be heard. It was hard because beating was the first thing that I knew. Like you beat your child when they're not listening, right?
That's the easiest way to get their attention.
Exactly. And so I tried that with my son. It didn't work.
Interesting.
And so I had to, he's the one that taught me how to be a great behavioral specialist because the way I had to discipline him was take things away from him.
So let me understand something. So the old traditional way just wasn't working.
No, it wasn't working.
Like you
The
tried
beating and
it, trial and error, wasn't working.
It wouldn't work.
And now what you're telling people is of what you found out that worked for you was just giving him a voice in the space to have an open level of communication with you.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's because with the the belt comes from a deep place, like slavery.
Yep.
You know, we're taught to not only beat our children, we receive the licks and think that we're supposed to also carry it on to our children, but we don't question it. We just beat for the sake of beating, right? And so with my children, beating wasn't a thing I wanted to do. After understanding who I was, where I'm coming from, where I'm going, I realized I wanted my son to be a reflection of me, but better. And so the value was always, you're going to be better than me. You're going to be better than your father, because we're not going to build a generation of another cycle.
Right.
So he was always used to coming home and expressing how his day was.
So even just to stop and think for a second, right? Looking at your childhood, things not being so pretty, and then going through a process and learning the process of being resilient through love, right? Bringing that to the family unit now you're able to use those same tools to end a generational curse.
Yes.
That's been going on for how long?
Long.
And that's all it took.
Yes.
Right? That's all it took.
And communication is a big key to any household.
Yeah.
It's tough to understand for those who are just very stuck in old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to repeat the same thing. So my children today, if there's a problem, they'll come to me.
Interesting.
They'll come and talk to me. They know that we're supposed to have meetings. If something not wrong, we're going to meet about it. We're going to talk about it. I will lash out and become that Jamaican mom. It's in me, right? And throw a look at 2 bad word. Yeah, I will, right? They know that's where I'm upset.
Right.
But it's not a perfect home. No home is perfect.
And it's not supposed to be.
No, it's not supposed to be.
Right.
And so everything that I've learned being in a toxic environment, I had to unlearn behaviors. I had to unlearn the behavior of not trusting people. I had to learn the behavior of having respect for myself. To unlearn thinking that because I'm black, I'm undeserving. Like it was a lot of unlearning. Right.
So that's huge. So having to unlearn and relearn, right? And I think that's a lot that you talk about in your book also.
Yes.
What I also want to ask you now is, transitioning from, the childhood and the skills and what you've learned in your childhood, applying it to your career, right? What are some of the different careers you've been through, and how have you applied yourself in that manner?
Well, my first job was working at a Christie cookie factory.
Christie Cookie Factory?
Yes. I would never forget, because I wanted a pair of Nike shoes and my mom wouldn't buy it for me. And as I'm going to go to work, and it was factory work, so my girlfriend and I jump on the bus. I don't even remember. It was far. Probably it could have been Malton, like Mississauga.
Yeah.
But I don't even know the area, so I just know it's far. And we would get there and we see older people just, have a form of line, how they bring the cookies down, we pack them. When I worked for a week, mind you, $6.95 was the rate.
Yeah.
And I only gained $100.
Dang.
I was like, how much longer do I have to work to gain 1,000?
So let me understand, overwork, underpaid.
Yeah. And so that's when I knew I wasn't going to work in a factory.
Yeah.
But the first $100, I went straight to Jane and Finch Mall, right into the running shoe store. I think it was called Front Runner. I don't remember, but the Nike shoes I wanted, that was it. I was done working.
And you just quit
the job.
I mean, you got what you wanted.
Yeah, I got what I wanted. But after that, I worked in retail.
Yeah.
And I know that working in a restaurant wasn't a thing for me because I
Right.
was too ignorant.
Okay.
And so I worked leaving the Bay, because the Bay was a place I worked for a good amount of years of my life. But after leaving college, I wanted to save the world because I went into social service and I was just like, this is me. I want to help people. And so my job out of college was in a shelter amongst dual diagnosed children.
Wow.
And it was a house full of females.
Interesting.
It was challenging, but it was sweet because people look at me and they're like, oh, she wouldn't hurt anybody. But there is a lioness behind this. There's
Talk
a
to
lion.
him.
There's
Talk
a
to
lioness.
him.
So when I would walk in and they think I was simple, and the girls, you couldn't tell the age difference because I was very young. I was 22. And when they would misbehave, I allow them. I give them a little warning, and then I just rise up.
Yes.
And that's when they realize, okay, we see why we hired her.
Interesting.
But the problem is getting home. Shift work wasn't a good thing for my life because I had a little boy at home.
Oh.
So he would wait up until I get home.
All night.
Yeah. So when I realized that wasn't a thing, I decided to search for a job, and I was lucky to find a career in York region. They were doing a mass hire for EAs and educational assistant.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
And so that's where I learned to not only develop my resiliency based on how my image is amongst people who were white. So I had to go to work in an area where everyone was white. And I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know if I should be myself.
Yeah.
It was so difficult. And so when I said, I'm just going to be myself, racism, that's where it started.
Right.
And I was attacked every day, and I didn't know how to deal with that.
So and having the battle of dealing with the racism in in an area where it's predominantly Caucasians, right?
Yeah.
Now we're having to still go back to that resiliency, right? Here we are, what are we, 10, 20,
Yeah.
right? Years
Always had to
later,
go back.
and now we're going back to, and not even just going back to what we were taught, but more so the foundation, right? That's what built the lower level to sustain a lot of pressure and a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Now, through your career, we understand that you went to the school board, right? Now, after the school board, where are you kind of doing for work right now?
Well, I'm still a full-time employee at PO, and I am part-time running a private practice.
Nice.
Counseling people.
Huge, because we had a mortgage person on the show, and he talked a lot about that. When he wanted to go into his career, what he did was he had around 2 or 3 jobs, but he was still working the mortgage field, right? And now it seems like he has the freedom where now, instead of having to work 2 or 3 jobs, you can get rid of one or get rid of 2 and then take it a lot more further.
Yes.
So what are the 2 current professions right now? Is counseling?
So I'm a therapist.
Therapist, sorry, yeah.
And during the day, I am a behavioral teaching assistant.
Okay. And also an author?
An author.
All right. There we go.
And a mother and a wife.
Yes.
Yes.
Call it out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what I want to ask you next now is, so being, a therapist, it's your own practice, right?
Yeah.
You run your own show. Where did the entrepreneur spirit come from?
Well, let's say that it was never there.
Interesting.
Because I used to always hear my grandparents say, "Oh, me not walk for nobody."
Sure, some of us heard that before.
Me not walk for nobody, but yet they were working for somebody.
Somebody.
Right? And then I only had one uncle that was an entrepreneur.
Right.
To this very day. He's an upholster. He actually has a shop not too far from here. And he's been doing that for so long that I can't even put a year on it or years on it. And so because they said they wouldn't work, they don't want to work for nobody, but everyone was working towards a pension. So I said, okay, maybe that's the life I'm supposed to live, work towards a pension.
Cliche.
And I was introduced to go to a entrepreneur hub for women on St. Clair. And it was a pilot project. I joined it. It was free. I went. And the knowledge that I gained, I said, I want to have my own stuff. And so from there, I didn't know that I was going to one day have my practice, which makes absolutely no sense. You know why?
Why?
Because when I was 12, I had a dream where I told my grandfather I had my own office, I had my own
Wow.
thing, and people were coming to me and they had problems, and I'm talking to
Wow.
them and they're like, thank you. And I didn't know what it was.
Manifestation, right?
And so even though I was running away from a thing that I was given a vision, I had no idea that I would end up having my own practice.
And looking at your career, right, and even you could say your personal life, right, everything kind of molded you in that direction.
Yes.
Right, being a therapist. Because, I mean, what are some of the skills necessary to be a therapist?
Well, to graduate from university with a bachelor's or a master's degree, to have a license in Ontario to operate a private practice.
Okay.
And you obviously, yes, have to sign up your business. So the fear came from me that I didn't want to start, but then I had a name,
Yeah.
registered the name, and the fear was, I'm not going to be good enough.
Wow.
I won't be able to do
You
it.
totally cut yourself out.
I cut myself out
long before you
within
even...
the process.
Wow.
And the fear built up, but I got myself a coach.
A
And
coach?
that coach, yeah.
So, and I want to highlight that for a second, right? Because a coach is someone who's able to see things that you're not able to see.
Right.
And they can kind of push you a little bit farther than you can push yourself.
Yes.
So how did the coach kind of impact?
She basically built me up to believe that I had the skills, because
Wow, it's good.
especially from our background, we're told that, you have to work twice as hard than anybody else to get what you want. So the vision was there, but the confidence was not. So she would build me up every day. Look at how you're helping people. And even the skill set that I have, I took it as, oh, it ain't nothing. Anybody can do therapy. Anybody can counsel anyone. She says, no, you're unique, right? So I had to believe in my skills to walk into my destiny.
Interesting. And that whole belief process is scary, right?
It is scary, and you doubt yourself in the whole thing.
And even if you look at how much you had to lean on your coach, like every day you needed that positive reminder, that
Yes.
daily affirmation.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cup or a bottle. You need that water to be poured in
Yes.
to keep it afloat, or else, if the water runs out,
Yeah.
your engine stops going and then you're pretty much total.
But after a while, you yourself have to be your own cheerleader.
I want you to talk about that, because I think that's a cheat code, right?
Yeah.
What does it look like becoming your own cheerleader?
Because you can't just always depend on others to build you up. Some of us think there's a magic pill, there's a magic potion, right?
We all wish.
That we have to take. But it comes from actually loving yourself so deeply that everything you see in the mirror, everything you hear that comes out of your mouth, everything that you are is beautiful to you. If you can't believe that, you ain't going nowhere.
I like that. It's the idea of everything you touch turns to gold.
Amen.
Right? You have to have that confidence,
Yes.
everything you touch. So, okay, that's a really good point, because as much as you did have your coach, it wasn't completely your coach.
No,
Right.
because she can speak the life into me, but
Yes.
do I believe it?
It's another
I believe
question.
it for the oh, this is good. Hang up the phone, I'm all alone. So you have to be your own cheerleader in everything you do in your life, or you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
Because nobody's going to come save you. Nobody's going to come help you
Okay, that's
to
key.
believe in your dream.
That's very key. Nobody's coming to save you.
No one's coming to
I don't
save
disagree
you.
with that. Right? You got to be able to pick yourself up. How can one who wants to actually run their own, practice as being a therapist, what's that step-by-step process like?
Well, after you decide that this is the road you want to head on, because the niche and all that come after. It's believing that this is what you're going forward with. And you have to also take into account that you can't just drop your day job and just become rich.
Yeah.
You have to work with it. You have to build it. So this first step in becoming a therapist is completing your degree.
Okay. Because I was going to ask about qualifications.
Yes, you have to complete your degree. In Ontario, you can have a private practice with your bachelor's.
Okay. That's good to know.
Outside of Ontario, that's not the case. You have to have a master's degree.
So if you're in
And
Toronto,
so-
you're in
yeah,
Ontario,
so
you're very
I'm
lucky.
very happy
You're
for
very
that.
lucky.
And so you also have to be a licensed social worker.
Okay.
So just like when you're a lawyer, a doctor, you have your license that you're under.
Yeah.
So the 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 Ontario College of Social Work and Social Service Worker
Nice.
is basically the licensing that we stand under.
Okay.
And so when you have that license, that's renewed every year.
Every year, once a year.
Once a year.
Okay, and we know renewal is not for free.
It's not cute. It ain't
Is
cute.
that something you want to disclose for a viewer?
I don't mind because you know
Okay.
what? I don't like when people withhold any information because if I want to learn, I want to grab onto everything.
And that's why she's on the Wave Show today.
Because it's no secret. So when you're a student, you get away with it because you pay a small fee, maybe $60, $100. When you are licensed and you are fresh out of school, they'll charge you $250.
Okay.
For 2 years.
It's not bad.
After that, $450.
Really?
Yes, $450. But if you really think about, if you have clients coming to see you, and you're charging them $150 an hour.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds a bit worth it, right? Would we agree?
Yeah, it's worth it. And you're under a licensing where they're protecting you. Right? Okay. So when
and who are you protected by also?
The College of Social Workers, they're there to protect you. They're also there for the community because as a social worker and advocate, so your client can come to be unsatisfied with the work that you're doing and make a complaint. They're free to make a complaint on what our performance is.
Right.
But they're also to keep us trained, to provide training for us, to provide support for us, to provide knowledge of upgrading ourselves, having a practice or not having a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not bad. So just to kind of understand it step by step. So you got to have your bachelor's.
Yeah.
Next is social work, right? Then you have to register through
the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers.
Tongue twister, I know. So I left it to you. And then after you get that, then you have to...
Now, when you have your license, now you're going to register your business, your practice.
Okay, that's what I want to
Yeah,
get
you
into.
have to register your business. So Service Ontario, you go and you register your business. I think now it's changed compared to before. And so you register the name, and you also decide if you're going to be sole proprietor or corporate.
Okay, so now that's where we can look into.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the corporation and the proprietor?
So the sole proprietor, you are sole responsible for your business.
Whoa, so everything falls
on you.
Okay.
In corporation now, everything falls on the business.
Okay.
Done. And so I'm incorporated.
All
and
right.
nothing falling on me.
All right. Right, and can you make that transition as you expand?
Yes, you can. Okay. Because when I helped my husband develop his business, he started as sole first, and then we went into incorporation.
Okay, that's huge. So you can make that transition, and obviously there's more perks.
Yes, there is more perks. There is. And the tax that you pay, right? Yeah. And you want to also have a good accountant. You don't want to wait until when it's tax time, you're thinking, because we were once told, my husband and I, for his business, oh, you don't have to claim anything for the first 5 years. Lies, right? And so for the first year, I was just like, I don't know. I think we need to claim, right? But it's good to have a good accountant that is going to hold you not only to be accountable, but make sure that you are learning about the process. You don't want an accountant that says, just drop off the receipts.
Okay.
And no, you want an accountant that's going to teach you, because what if that accountant dies?
Right.
Moves.
It's
then
true.
What?
It's true. And even just to tap into that, like, you don't, in anything you do, if you're having somebody do it for you, how important it is to spend the quality time behind them doing it and watching and learning and asking those 1 or 2 questions that can help save you tons of time down the line. Right? Like the guessing game of 5 years.
5 years, ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a good question. All right. So, Tanasha, what I want to ask you is, what was the process like learning how to write a book? And is this your first book?
Yes.
Okay, so what's your first book?
Yes, my first book.
Okay.
I was part of a transformation program, and it had to do with it was a Christian program. So the prophetess who prophesied over me said that I have to write a book. And that was good to hear at first. I don't know. I don't know if I want to write the book. And I've always been writing from a very young age. I would say from I was about 9 or 10 years old. And so I remember telling people that I'm going to write a book one day about my life. So when the day came for me to write the book, I was just like, I don't think I want to do it anymore because it's a lot of work.
So was it like writer's block?
It wasn't that until I got to chapter 6.
Okay.
But in the beginning, I was like, all right, I got this. And I immediately, the information just started to download in my head. So the way the book starts, it's like present day to the day I was broken. And so you can even read it from back to front.
Interesting.
Yes, because that's what I want. I want that effect that if you pick it up, you read it backwards or read it from front to back.
Cool.
And so it was challenging. And so I already, in the program, within the program, you already have the publisher.
Okay.
My publisher is called Romello Publishing.
Okay.
And that comes with the transformation program that I was a part of. So I was just lucky to have that in my package already. And so with the editing that comes with it, the process of having edited twice,
Okay.
and also having to make sure that I had the graphic designs to go with it, the marketing aspect of the book. So it comes in a package, and then I get printed copies.
Okay.
And so the great part of it, it's Black owned, Christian based,
Nice.
right? So I trust these people, right? So looking for a publisher can be very challenging.
Okay.
Because everybody can say that they publish book.
And it's not everybody that can publish books.
Right?
To be clear on that.
And so you want to make sure that you're signing an agreement that whatever you're going into, what you're paying for,
Yeah.
you're going to receive.
Okay.
And so it's not cheap.
Okay.
So the highest you will pay for publishing is $10,000
Really?
and more. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So a publisher is just not for sale.
It's not for sale. And so if you really look into it, this is something, it's your baby, you're birthing something.
Yeah.
So when you're really serious about it, you're going to put that coin
Yeah.
together, right? I didn't pay $10,000.
Okay. You were gonna ask that
because I'm real. I'm a realist. So I didn't pay that. I did pay almost $5,000.
Okay.
I still, like, if I add it up, I would say it comes up to $5,000, and that is just added stuff on top of what I wanted.
Okay.
Right? And so I want to make sure that my book was carefully taken care of, in a sense that I'm going to publish it and know that it's going to be put out there with the great interest behind it, knowing that it's going to be sold and it's going to be on different platforms. So my platform is international.
Okay.
And so I have it at Walmart, it's at Indigo, it's on Apple Books, Amazon, Kindle,
Nice.
Barnes and Nobles, right? So that is why I chose them, because it wasn't just going to be local, and I don't want to be local.
Yeah.
I want to be international.
I like that.
Right?
But that's the thing, you got to think big, right?
Yes, you have to think big.
Right. And the funny thing about thinking big is the same energy and effort that it
Yes.
takes to think small. It takes that same exact effort to think
Yes.
big.
Yes.
So it's almost like, why not think big?
Exactly.
Right? Why
Yes.
settle for less?
Right.
And especially if we're looking at abundance, right? Mm-hmm. Tapping into abundance and looking at, your crowd.
Yeah.
What's the one message through your book that you're trying to connect to your crowd?
I wrote this book not by myself. God
Okay.
directed me in each chapter, because there's obviously something in me that he realized that his people need to hear.
Okay.
And so that was healing from a place of brokenness. Many of us have been broken before we even came into this world. And that is from our bloodline,
Yeah.
right? And so whatever our bloodline is carrying, we birth in, and we have our own life now.
Yeah.
And so we're now carrying our own burdens of what we've been through, our own experiences, on top of what our parents carried.
Yep.
Right? And so if we don't go deep and dig for what root out the generational curses, we're going to just keep doing the same cycle. So I wrote this book to let people know that you can be your best self. You can work hard, and you can do it all on your own with the love and support that you have around you. You need to understand you have to fail in order to succeed.
Yep.
You have to believe in that the manifestation that you can think up in your mind can actually become real. And through healing and loving self and doing the self-work,
Yeah.
that becomes true.
Right, and I want to look on that healing piece, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some things you talk about in your book that you have to kind of heal yourself from.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and if you want in a bit we can dive into that.
Yeah.
But looking at one of the quotes that stood out to me, as because me and my fiance kind of picked up the book, right? And we're
Yes.
doing a little bit of reading right
Thank
now.
you.
And one of the things that we both sat there and looked at that stood out to us was a very interesting quote that you said.
Okay.
Right, I'm gonna read it out just
All
for our
right.
viewers, so you guys can get a little taste of what's inside of the book. It goes, so for every person who did witchcraft against me, I thank you. Right? For every person who tried to destroy my marriage, I thank you. For every person who told lies about me, I thank you. For every person who tried to destroy my face, I thank you. And for every person who hates me, even to this day, I thank you. Now you even go on to say, I have forgiven myself first. I also forgive you so that I can express freedom. Thank you. What was the liberation behind writing that?
It when I sat down and thought about the thank yous, it's what built me up to who I am today. And so I encourage people that you're going to need your haters to
Yes.
get to your place of peace, because they're going to push you to want your best self.
Nice.
Right? And so mental health is something that we don't talk about in our community. It's almost like it's like a curse word.
Yeah.
Right? Mental health. There's a ignorance to
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And so my practice is to make sure that my clients come in not thinking that mental health means you're mad sick. It's to understand, are you checking in with your mental state?
Right.
Are you checking in to see how you're doing every day? You're doing that mental check-in, right? When we lose ourselves, we now need assistance. We're hospitalized, right? We're out of control. We need assistance with taking medication. There's nothing wrong if you have to take medication. It's assisting you to get you to a place of peace.
Right.
And so sexual abuse is something that's also hidden in our culture.
Yep.
It's put under the rug, and I'm pretty sure other cultures can say the same thing. We don't talk about it. And so there's a lot of broken men and women out there who have been violated and walking broken like ticking bombs, triggered off of anything that doesn't feel good, and they haven't sought the help because, like, again, our culture, we don't tell people our business.
Yeah. And that's something that we're kind of trained and conditioned to do,
Yeah.
right? And even tying into the broken, is that where the title of the book came from?
Yes,
And can you elaborate a little bit more on
Yes.
that?
And so I had a different title. It was more Getting Closer to Me. And I was like, it doesn't, flow well. But I'm like, the last chapter means I was broken, but I am now wholesome. So once was broken.
Past tense.
Past tense. So I said, I'm going to go with that. And it's catchy also, right? And so my daughter helped with the designing of the book. And because she's a dancer, people thought that was her on the image, on the front. And it isn't. It just we didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want the book to look like this poor me, woe me kind of thing, or I'm chained up and, I was let loose like some kind of animal.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be that I'm liberating, I'm celebrating what I was once broken. I was once broken, not anymore, because I did the work.
And that's almost like that Harriet Tubman mindset, right? You're going out there, because now you're free, you're going back out there to try to free some other people.
Yes.
And that's why, along that quote, the freedom piece is so refreshing.
Yeah.
Right? The liberation from whatever's holding you down and back.
Yeah.
And not allowing it to control you anymore.
Yes.
Right? So what's the one thing through learning this book that you learned about yourself?
That I went through a lot, and I didn't realize, and I didn't even put everything in the book. I went through a lot, and I didn't realize how much, not only resiliency, but the strength to pull through. Because reading that, people were like, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed.
Right?
Yeah. And just knowing that depression is not a permanent situation.
That's good.
It's not permanent.
And you can speak from that, coming from a place
of depression.
Right?
I used to be depressed. I used to walk depressed, talk depressed, just be in it. And I'm just happy now that I can now speak to my people and let them know that it's not a permanent situation.
Okay, and even towards the book, what's the work ethic like behind the book? You know, the hours you got to put in to get the story out.
It was an everyday kind of thing. At one point, I wasn't writing anymore. I started to record myself.
Right.
Because I said, you know what, I got to go with what flows. So if I'm driving and a thought comes to me, I start recording it on my phone.
Right.
Because if I get to my destination, I'm not going to remember that quote, that thought. So it was every day.
And that's a key nugget for our viewers, right?
Yes.
The idea of retaining a thought
Yeah.
when it hits you. Because how soon does it disappear,
It
right?
can disappear. Especially your mom, you're running a business, you have a full-time job,
Yes.
a wife.
Yes. So all of those things can...
Yeah, just remove everything.
Yes. Okay, so that's huge. Okay. So, Tanasha,
Yes.
you know, we want to play a game with you.
All right.
You said you're from Jamaica, right?
Well, I would consider myself to be, yes.
All right. So we're going to test you, and our viewers are going to tally up the scores.
All right.
But we're going to start with some questions
Okay.
or some words.
Okay.
Right? Because we're talking about writing and language. So we're going
Yes.
to look at some words
All right.
around the Jamaican culture.
All right.
All right?
Go ahead.
Word. What's a Jamaican word for sidewalk? Sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
6.5 hours later.
When last you been to Jamaica?
I'm just thinking, they don't have sidewalk.
What do they have then? All right.
Oh, wow, that one, yeah.
We're gonna go with
Sidewalk?
Bankside.
Bankside, true. So true. I would never say that, though. That's why. Yes,
Right.
Bankside, so country.
All
yes,
right.
that's real country.
Countryside. The next one I want to ask you is, what's a Jamaican word for hungry?
Hungry. Mirah. Or, oh, God.
1 eternity later.
Yo, it's good.
How is this so complicated for me? Oh my gosh.
You want the answer?
Hold on.
All right, I gotta think.
Hungry? Oh man, I'm going back to like Jamestown days. I'm thinking of Marved, but that's not even it. Oh. I would say I'm dead for hungry.
Dead for hungry?
Yeah, I'm dead for hungry.
All right, what about the word squally?
Squat? Oh my God, where'd you come from? Wow.
Squally.
Where in Jamaica?
Bush.
Bush. Yeah, you're right. It's Bush.
That's good. All right, let's see.
And it's funny because my parents are from, well, my mom's from St. Mary. This is some deep
my people are from
squally.
St. Mary too.
Yeah?
We're in
Look
St.
at that.
Mary.
Enfield.
My God. All right, we'll talk. All right, so the next word I want to ask you.
All right.
You'll probably get this one.
Okay.
How do you say hi?
Wampum.
Wampum.
Wagwan.
There we go. Wrong one. Ding, ding, ding. All right, so what do we call soccer?
Football.
Ah, there we go. Football.
Yeah.
And name the #1 Jamaican dish.
Ackee and saltfish.
Talk to them.
Yes.
So let's see if she can finish this
My
quote now, guys.
favorite dish.
Let's see if you can finish this quote now, all right?
All right.
You ready?
Oh, God.
Old fire stick is what?
Me no know.
Boy.
Old fire stick
Yes.
is me no know.
All right. You give up?
I give up.
All right. They say old fire stick
Yeah.
is easy to catch.
Oh, easy for catch.
You never heard that one?
No.
Oh.
Maybe if I did, you see those ones?
Yeah.
I don't even touch those parables. Me no depend.
You don't do the parables,
No.
eh? You run far?
I run far.
Oh, okay. I don't blame you. Yeah. Parables will twist you up still.
Yes, they will.
All right. So, Tanasha, today I want to thank you for coming out. We really appreciate you coming out, showing
You're
some
welcome.
love. Like I told you guys at the beginning, the story is definitely powerful.
Yes.
Make sure you guys go ahead and get the book. And where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook, Mastery of Self.
Okay.
IG at mastery_of self. My website is www.masteryofselfinc.ca.
Okay.
Also, I'm on LinkedIn as Tanasha Smith. And for my book, once-broken.com. My book is also on Amazon for those who are Amazon buyers. And I'm on all platforms.
Nice. So that's huge. That's good to know.
Yes.
So people know where to find you. Again, I want to thank you for coming out, showing
Thanks
some
for
love.
having me.
No problem, man.
I
It's always
appreciate you
love.
guys.
It's always love over here.
Yes.
And to our viewers, thank you guys for showing some love. And please don't forget to hit the like, comment, and also subscribe. And remember, stay wavy.
Come to the Wave Show. Come to the Wave Show.